There are a lot of different ways to create texture and pattern into your clay body. I'm going to be showing you how to make a couple different stamps. All you need is a bag of clay and a few simple tools. Personal stamps. Most ceramic artists use these to sign their work. We'll first start by making the blank. The blank is what we call just the basic shape of the stamp without carving into it. So roll it into a coil, tap one side of it till it's flat, wait until it's leather hard, but in the meantime, what we can do is brainstorm your ideas. So first begin by writing down your initials, capitalized in different variations of that letter, lowercase, a combination of uppercase and lowercase. I encourage you to play around with combining the letters. So this is my very first stamp where I use one line for both the J and the D. My current stamp, I actually take away all the curves and just do straight lines for my J and D. My husband's stamp, on the other hand, uses Z and F and shares lines between the two letters. Remember that when you print something, you have to carve in the mirror image. So my JD, I'd actually have to carve in the opposite. So the D first on the left-hand side and the J on the right-hand side. Start by just sketching in what you're about to carve in, just in case you make a mistake. Although if you do make a mistake, you can always just chop off about a 1/4 inch of the clay. Then using your sgraffito tool, carve in really deep so you have a good thick, straight, and clear line. Consider the outside edge of your stamp as well because that will become part of your design. Craftsmanship is really important, especially with a stamp, because any sort of boogers left behind will show up in your clay. So make sure to smooth everything down with your finger first, and then use a wet paintbrush to do all the fine details of smoothing. Lastly, use a damp sponge to smooth out the outside of the stamp so it feels nice in your hand. Test out your stamp in wet clay to make sure it's deep enough and clear enough. Line roller stamps is a unique way to create interesting lines in your pottery. Start by rolling it out, smash it into a small pancake, and then you need to create a space where your forefinger and thumb can hold on to it as it rolls. And then play around with the different thicknesses of the line, maybe thick, maybe thin. This one will have varying degrees and thicknesses of a rather thick line. You can also carve into your roller line stamp. These are a couple bisque roller stamps. This one you can see has a little square inserted into it. These are just some basic single line, slightly different weighted line stamps. Texture roller stamps are similar as the texture line stamps in that they both roll, but this one creates a wider texture. Start by rolling your clay into a really thick coil. I'm going to make two just to show you some variations on this stamp. Wait until it's leather hard. This is really important. So one way to get a texture roller stamp is by pressing something into it. Here I'm just using a screw to get a repeated pattern. You can also carve lines in. Here I'm just doing straight lines using the sgraffito tool. Be sure to cut off the edges so you have a crisp end to your stamps. And here they are in action. As you can see, I'm just rolling it onto plastic clay, and it creates a continuous texture onto the clay. Next, I'm going to show you two basic stamps that will start with a teardrop shaped blank. Start by rolling out your ball of clay and pinching one end to create the handle. Tap it on your table to create a flat surface. Right away you can start cutting into it. I like to use this metal rib. You can also use a knife. And think about the outside edge as your stamp. Make sure to test it out once it's leather hard. These are a few of my favorite shaped stamps that I've made a while ago. These are bisque, and with these shaped stamps you can create new patterns by laying them next to each other on the clay. The next stamp that I'm going to show you is focusing on the texture of the stamp while also considering the outside edge. So do the same thing you did for the first one, but this time wait until it's leather hard to start carving into it. Now there's a couple of different ways to create the texture. Go and find things in your junk drawer to press into the clay. Here I'm just using a nut and I'm going to press that into the clay to get the impression, and that will create the texture. Same with the other stamp, consider the outside, trim it down if it makes sense, and so it's not just a blob. You can also use the top of a pen cap. So really look around your surroundings to take a look at what is interesting for texture. Anything can work. You can also carve into the clay. I recommend using your Sgraffito tool because that will create thicker, cleaner, and wider lines that will imprint into the clay much easier. Same again, consider the outside shape so it's not just a random blob. Here are a couple of my favorite bisque stamps that I've made over the years. I really like combining the stamps together and creating a new pattern with them. So there you have it, the very basics of making clay stamps. There's a lot of different variations on them, so that's just the bare bones. So I hope you have a lot of fun with making your own texture stamps.